Sometimes in history, armies, battles, and generals are not the ones who change an empire. Sometimes the fate of an entire empire is changed by one woman. In Russian history, there were two such women. Their names were the same, but their paths were completely different. Catherine the First, Catherine the Second, Catherine the Great. Their story is not just about the throne. It is a story of power, love, betrayal, politics, and destiny. The Russian Empire was considered a world of men. In this world, ruling belonged to men. Women were expected to stay silent. The palace was full of intrigue, rivalry, and secret plans. And yet in this world, two women appeared and changed the rules of the game. The first one was never meant to be a queen. She was born into poverty, lost her parents early, and worked as a simple servant. Her name was Marta. No one could imagine that this poor girl would one day wear the imperial crown and become the first woman ruler of Russia. This is the story of Catherine the First. The second woman was completely different. She was not born in Russia. She was a German princess brought to Russia for one reason: to be quiet in the court, to become the Tsar's wife, to live as a decoration in the background. But she refused to stay in the background. She learned the language of the court. She studied people's weaknesses. She understood politics in the shadows. Step by step, she moved forward, waited, planned, and then shocked everyone. She was not satisfied with being empress consort. She became the real sovereign of the empire. This is the story of Catherine II, Catherine the Great. This video does not simply compare two women. Together, we will search for answers. Who were they really? How did they reach the throne? Did they choose love or power? Who changed Russia more deeply? One was a ruler chosen by fate. The other seized the throne with her own hands. One preserved the empire. The other expanded it. Now the stage of history opens. Two names step into the light: Catherine the First, Catherine the Great. And one question remains, simple to ask, hard to answer. Who was the true great Catherine of Russia? Catherine I was not born in a palace. Her real name was Marta Helena Skowronska. She was born somewhere on the borderlands of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. In poverty, in uncertainty, in a world where life was harsh and short. She lost her parents early. She did not receive royal education. Most likely, she could barely read or write. She worked as servant in houses, helper in clergy households later, in military environments during war. Her life changed not because of birth, but because of whom she met. Through a chain of events and patrons, Marta eventually entered the circle of Peter the Great of Russia, first as companion, later as partner, and finally as wife. Peter trusted her deeply. She traveled with him during campaigns, even during war. She shared not only the luxury of court, but also danger, exhaustion, and hardship. After Peter's death in 1725, something unprecedented happened. The poor servant girl named Marta became Empress Catherine I of Russia. She ruled only about 2 years, but she became the first woman ever to sit on the Russian throne. Her story is not one of ambition and plotting. It is a story of survival, fate, loyalty, and a rise that no one could have predicted. Catherine II, the woman who chose power. Catherine II's story begins very differently. She was born Sophie Friederike Augusta of Anhalt-Zerbst, a minor German princess raised in a disciplined, intellectual atmosphere. Unlike Catherine I, she, learned languages read, philosophy, was educated in court etiquette, grew up surrounded by European Enlightenment ideas. When she was still young, she was invited to Russia to marry the heir to the throne, the future Peter III. At first, she was simply expected to be a wife, produce an heir, stay silent. But Catherine was not the kind of woman who stayed silent. She learned Russian, converted to Orthodoxy, and began to win allies at court. She studied state affairs, read French philosophers like Voltaire and Diderot, and created her own vision of what Russia could become. Her marriage was unhappy. Her husband was unpopular and politically weak. So Catherine made a decision. If she could not change the man on the throne, she would change who sat on the throne. In 1762, with the support of the army and nobles, she led a palace coup. Her husband was removed from power and soon died under mysterious circumstances. Catherine became Empress of Russia not by accident, but by choice, planning, and determination. She ruled for more than 30 years. Her reign would later be called the Golden Age of the Russian Empire. Two women, same name, completely different beginnings. One rose from poverty to the throne. The other took the throne with her own hands. One relied on loyalty, warmth, and personal relationships. The other relied on intellect, politics, and ambition. But both of them did something extraordinary. In a male-dominated empire, in a world where women were expected to obey, they ruled Russia. And now that we know who they were, we can ask a deeper question. How did each of them reach power? And what did they do once they held it? Catherine. I did not fight for the throne. History pulled her toward it. By the time she met Peter the Great, he was already the powerful ruler who was transforming Russia. Building cities, fighting wars, breaking traditions. Catherine was not only his wife, she became his closest companion. She followed him during military campaigns. She saw hunger, disease, exhaustion, defeat, and victory alongside him. Peter trusted her more than many generals and nobles. As Peter's health declined, one question became unavoidable. Who would rule Russia after him? There was no clear succession plan. The nobles were divided. The army had its own favorites. In this chaos, something unprecedented happened. The powerful military guard, the Preobrazhensky regiment, and leading statesmen supported Catherine. Not because she was born royal, but because she was tied to Peter's legacy and had the loyalty of the army. In 1725, after Peter's death, Catherine was proclaimed Empress of all Russia. A woman with no royal blood, no formal education, no great political theory, sat on one of the largest thrones in the world. Her rise to power was not the result of a coup she planned. It was a combination of Peter's favor, military support, political necessity, and the power of her personal relationships. Catherine the did not seize the throne. The throne, almost unexpectedly, came to her. Catherine II, the coup that changed an empire. The story of Catherine the Great is very different. She did not wait for fate to decide her future. She decided it herself. Catherine's husband, Peter III, became emperor in 1762, but he quickly became unpopular. He admired Prussia, Russia's recent enemy. He criticized the Orthodox Church. He alienated the army and the nobility. His reforms were rushed and careless. Catherine watched, listened, and built alliances quietly. She spoke with generals. She gained the loyalty of the imperial guard. She created relationships within the court and church. And when the time was right, she moved. In June 1762, Catherine led one of the most famous palace coups in Russian history. Soldiers swore loyalty to her. She was proclaimed Empress Catherine II while her husband was still alive. Peter III was arrested. Shortly afterward, he died under mysterious circumstances, officially by accident, though history still debates what truly happened. Unlike Catherine I, whose power came through marriage and continuity, Catherine II took the throne with determination, political intelligence, and courage. She knew the risk. If she failed, she would not simply lose the throne, she would likely lose her life. But she did not fail. Instead, she founded one of the most powerful reigns in Russian history. Two paths, one throne. Catherine. I reached the throne through love, loyalty, and the legacy of Peter the Great. Catherine II reached it through strategy, alliance building, and a decisive coup. One was lifted to power by circumstances. The other claimed power with her own hands. Both became empresses. Both changed Russia. But the way they reached the throne reveals who they truly were. One trusted fate. The other trusted herself. To understand why these two women ruled so differently, we need to look not only at what they did, but who they were inside. Because power does not only come from armies and crowns, it comes from character. Catherine I. Warmth, resilience, and human instinct. Catherine I did not grow up in courts or academies. Life was her teacher. From childhood, she learned how to survive loss, how to adapt to any situation, how to read people quickly, how to stay calm when everything around collapses. She did not speak many languages. She did not write philosophical treatises, but she possessed something else: emotional intelligence. People around her often described her as warm, approachable kind in daily life, strong in moments of crisis. She laughed easily, enjoyed simple food, and preferred small gatherings rather than grand ceremonies. She had an ability that rulers rarely possess. People felt comfortable next to her. Her strength was not in theory but in instinct. She trusted a small circle of advisors and did not try to reshape the world. Instead, she wanted stability, peace, and continuity after the stormy reforms of Peter the Great. Catherine was the kind of person who holds a world together quietly, not with thunder, but with presence. Catherine the Great was made of different material. From a young age, she believed life was something to be shaped, not endured. She was disciplined, analytical, hungry for knowledge, remarkably self-controlled. She read philosophy late into the night. She memorized court etiquette, studied politics, and observed everyone around her very carefully. Unlike Catherine I, who relied on emotion, Catherine II relied on reason. She could separate feelings from decisions. She could hide disappointment, wait for the right moment, and move decisively when opportunity appeared. Many described her gaze as calm but calculating, not cold in cruelty, but cold in concentration. She had a powerful belief: Russia could be greater, and she was the one who would make it so. This belief made her ambitious, sometimes ruthless, often incredibly determined. Where others saw obstacles, she saw problems to solve. Her charisma was different from Catherine I. People did not relax around Catherine the Great. They respected her. Heart versus mind, instinct versus strategy. When we place their characters side by side, a contrast appears. Catherine I led with heart, empathy, survival instinct, connection with ordinary people. Catherine II led with mind, strategy, long-term vision, unwavering will. One wanted calm after chaos. The other wanted movement, expansion, transformation. One accepted power when it came. The other went out and took it. And yet both possessed courage, but expressed it differently. Catherine I had the courage to endure. Catherine II had the courage to act. What kind of rulers did they become? Their characters shaped their reigns. Catherine I avoided unnecessary conflict, relied on advisors, valued loyalty over ideology, tried to protect Peter the Great's legacy. Catherine II initiated reforms, expanded borders, engaged with philosophers and intellectuals, viewed herself as architect of Russia's future. Two personalities, two styles of rule, one empire. In the end, their stories remind us that there is no single type of strength. Strength can be quiet or loud, gentle or sharp, patient or aggressive. One woman ruled with warmth, the other ruled with will, and together they ask us a question. Which kind of strength truly changes history? The strength to endure or the strength to transform? Empires are not only measured by borders and battles, they are measured by what changes after a ruler leaves. Both Catherine I and Catherine II changed Russia, but they changed it in very different ways. Catherine I, stabilizing a storm. When Catherine I came to power, Russia was exhausted. Peter the Great had fought long wars, forced massive reforms, broken traditions, shaken the entire structure of society. The state was powerful, but tired. Catherine I did not try to remake Russia again. Instead, she tried to let Russia breathe. Her rule focused on keeping peace inside the empire, protecting the reforms already made, making sure the army and nobles stayed loyal, preventing chaos after Peter's death. She created the Supreme Privy Council, giving high-ranking nobles larger political influence. This was not weakness. It was pragmatism. Catherine I understood something simple. A country cannot live in permanent revolution, so she slowed the reforms, balanced competing factions, and kept the state functioning. Her reign was short, only about 2 years. But during those 2 years, Russia did not collapse, and that alone was an achievement. She changed Russia not by expansion or ideology, but by stability. Sometimes the greatest political act is to keep a stormy ship from sinking. Catherine II, building a great power. Catherine the Great did not want calm seas. She wanted movement. Where Catherine the First stabilized, Catherine the Second transformed. She expanded the borders dramatically. Crimea was annexed. Parts of Poland were divided and absorbed. Russia reached deeper into the Black Sea region. Under her, Russia went from a regional empire to a European superpower. But her changes were not only territorial. She wanted to reform the mind of Russia. She corresponded with Enlightenment philosophers like Voltaire and Diderot. She discussed law, education, and reason. She attempted legal reform, writing the Nakaz, a guide for rewriting Russia's laws based on Enlightenment ideas. She founded schools, supported arts, collected paintings, and turned St. Petersburg into a cultural center. However, her rule also strengthened the nobility and expanded serfdom, tying peasants more tightly to landowners. So her legacy is complex. Enlightenment at the top, hardship for many below. But there is no doubt Catherine the Great transformed Russia into a fearsome empire that Europe could no longer ignore. Two rulers, two kinds of change. Catherine the First preserved stability, protected Peter's reforms, prevented internal collapse, ruled through compromise and calm. Catherine the Second expanded territory, reshaped politics, promoted culture and education, ruled through vision and will. One tried to hold the empire together. The other tried to push it forward. Both succeeded in different ways. And together they show that history is not changed only by warriors and conquerors. Sometimes it is changed by those who keep a country alive long enough for the next transformation to happen. History remembers many kings and generals, but sometimes history is changed by someone no one expected. Two women, one throne, two completely different paths. Catherine the First, a woman who was never meant to wear a crown. She came from poverty, from ordinary life, from struggle. Yet when the empire stood on the edge of chaos, she held it together with calm, warmth, and resilience. Catherine the Second, Catherine the Great, a woman who refused to wait for destiny. She planned, she acted, she transformed. She expanded borders, rewrote laws, and shaped Russia with iron determination. One gave Russia stability, the other gave Russia ambition. Neither life was simple, neither reign was perfect, but both left something behind that could not be erased. They ruled in a world that told women to stay silent, and instead they spoke with crowns. So now the question is yours. Whose path do you admire more? The strength to protect what exists, or the courage to change everything? Tell me in the comments. I'd love to read your thoughts. And if you enjoy traveling through history like this, real stories, real people, real choices, like the video, subscribe to the channel, share your opinion. Your support keeps these stories alive. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next chapter of history.